Hello and welcome to Cognitions Speaking the Unspeakable with JP
And Stacy D.
I'm JP Craddock and I'm here with the one and only Stacy D Love. We are broadcasting here on KUAW Radio, which stands for Knowledge, Understanding,
and wisdom.
Wisdom. You can also catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and TuneIn. All right, coming up on the show today, our question of the day is, my new guy has disclosed that he's in therapy. How do I find out his diagnosis, and which diagnoses should I run from? Now check this out. We're not only going to answer that question, but I am going to discuss the diagnosis that a woman should look for in a man, not to avoid it. There, and D, I want you to I want you to try to figure out what it is. You can guess. There is a diagnosis that makes a man a very, very compatible mate. So much so, D. First thing, sex addiction will get a woman cheated on, okay? She got to have a whole lot of stamina to deal with that. The D, you think you can keep up with sex addiction? Let me tell you, don't get tired one day. He will be out with somebody else. Okay, no. To our listeners, please don't run out and find you somebody with a sex addiction. That fool is going to cheat on you. That was one of our 6 types of cheaters. Sex addiction. No. Clearly. Ooh, the D. Okay. You're going to have to guess better than that, D. What is the diagnosis? Don't guess now. Wait till we get to the segment. The diagnosis that this diagnosis makes men so compatible that it actually elevates them above men who don't have it. Wow. And above men who don't have a diagnosis at all. Believe it or not, there is a mental health diagnosis that women should be looking for. And if you find it,
all diagnoses are bad. There are some good ones. There are quite a few good ones, believe it or not. But remember, we did a show about that.
Yes.
Almost anything can have a diagnosis.
Oh, everybody, over the course of a lifetime, you're going to meet the criteria for a diagnosis. But when people hear diagnosis, because this person is nervous, basically, and like, okay, you in therapy. He got a diagnosis. I need to know what it is in case I need to escape. But we're going to answer that. But I want to let women know what they should be looking for. There is a particular mental illness that if you come across it, husband him up. You know how they say, wife him up.
Husband him up. Think you done made another one up, JP. You done made another one
Another
up.
term for our dictionary.
Yeah, for our dictionary.
This is why we need an intern to track our terminology.
Yeah, well, we were just speaking
we
on.
came up with a diagnosis, and we coming up with our own terms. Because everybody else
But I
does.
think that I am going to call some BSW classes and see if I can get a couple of interns, though.
It's time for interns.
It's time for interns.
Yeah, I need a MSW intern. Okay, so that's coming up with the question of the day. Before we get to that, we're going to do our check-in, and then we're going to do mental health and illness in the news. D, what's your check-in? What you got?
Okay.
It has something to do with sex addiction?
No. It had something to do with our last week show that a couple of people called
Friends
me.
with benefits?
Yeah, a couple of people called and was like, were you talking about me on the show?
Oh.
Yeah, and I was
Angry
like,
men.
Yeah, angry men. I was like, no.
For those of you who missed it, last week, the question of the day last week was, how do you successfully maintain a friends with benefits relationship. And I said, it's really not a relationship, it's an arrangement. So some of your friends was complaining, what, they want more benefits, they want less benefits.
I don't even
what?
think they watched the show. They just rode past and seen the title and started assuming stuff. And I was
Now-
like, if you watched the show, you would have heard me say it several times. This is not a behavior that I have demonstrated in 10 to 15 years. I did not say that several times.
You said that several times, yes. But they figured you were talking about them. Now, if they watched the show, they might have thought that you was talking about them still, D, because, see, you work your friends with benefits to death.
Yeah, I do.
See, because the benefits with you is not just sex. They got
No.
to mow the lawn and shovel snow and pull weeds and
My gutters.
add a room onto your house.
Cut that rose bush up, like one of my friends is coming to do Saturday. Cut the rose bush down. Yeah,
Your benefits come at a really, really
but we're good.
high
We're just
price.
friends. But we're just friends. But they call and ask me to do things. Help them set up a business. Give them, different things on how to do things. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not always, in my point of view, in these last 10 to 15 years, it haven't been the benefit is sex. The benefit is sometimes it's knowledge.
Okay.
And cleaning my gutters out.
Now that show was
and
about
detailing
sex.
my car.
Last week's show was
Yeah.
about D. The list is getting longer. Last week's
I
show
told
was
y'all
about
I
sex.
was a kelp chick.
That show was about sex, though.
Okay,
D.
I am not having a flash or anything, you guys.
No, you
It's a little
probably
warm.
are.
No, I'm always cold.
Because last week it was real hot. It's not hot today in here. You might be flashing.
I hope
It's your own private summer. Okay. I actually... do you have anything else for your check-in?
Nope, that's it, because we always run over, so come on.
We do, and I have a lot for mental health and illness in the news
See,
today.
I thought that's why we have a great partnership.
Yeah, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to...
Pay attention.
I'm going to skip
We're not
my
worried
check-in.
about what Mr. Walker is doing right now. I was doing good until you looked, and because I'm looking at you.
Okay, first thing, why is Mr. Walker creeping around in the background,
Eating potato
behind
chips.
the scenes, eating potato chips on his phone? I need him to run the show. Why is he all the way over here? If
Hey,
he's
I
over
don't
here,
know.
who's running the show? The professor? The professor.
And the professor
you
was
hold it
with
down.
us last week. I guess he's not going to join us this
Professor
week.
ready to get on Professor, you want to get on camera? Do you have a diagnosis that women are looking for? Are they looking for you, Professor?
In the daytime with a flashlight.
For those who can't hear, the professor said not so far, but he's available for the looking for. If
Yes,
y'all want to
he's
look
available.
for
The
somebody.
professor.
Hold on, is the professor? Are you available? Are you married or single, Professor?
Single.
Oh, thank you. We got some snacks, Professor.
Thank
you're
you.
single,
Just listen to your co-host. He got all the answers.
I just told you he's single.
Professor. What do you have a mental health diagnosis? We need to figure out if women should be running towards you or from you. Professor, what's your diagnosis?
But he will make you a good mix CD, though. Old school, slow down.
Professor Smooth Jazz. Listen, for those of you listening, it generally is not appropriate to ask somebody what their diagnosis is, so do not run around and do that. Although that
No,
is
it's
our
not.
question of the day, and I did just ask the professor. I'm messing with the professor. It's almost as bad as asking someone
How much
money
they weigh.
make. Ooh, that's It's kind of like that.
And a
Asking
woman her
someone their
age.
weight. Don't ask a woman her age. Don't ask a woman how much she weighs. You're right. We should do a show on these are the things you do not ask a woman.
Yes.
Don't ask her what she weighs. Don't ask her dress size. Don't ask her. Can you ask a woman how much money she makes?
No.
You really cannot ask anybody how much money they make. It's just not appropriate.
No coof.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to mental health and illness in the news, and then if we get through the mental health and illness in the news story, of course, I have a ridiculous check-in. All right, now here's my first mental health and illness in the news story. There is a woman who won the North Carolina Powerball. She won $188 million. Have you heard of her?
No.
This was years ago. Her name is Marie Holmes.
She's broke now anyway.
She blew it.
They always do.
She blew all of that money.
$188 million. That
She
really
blew-
should have been enough
She blew
for at least
188.
yourself and your next generation, even your two generations.
You should have 188 million, D. That's generational wealth until the planet implodes. If she would have invested it, that should have turned into old money for all.
That's
of her
that new old
generations.
money.
For all of her generations.
Dropped in a lap, old money to new money.
This is how you can lose $188 million during your lifetime. Okay.
Now she's back on welfare.
$100 million went to taxes off the top. Okay, so now she down to 88 million. She wasn't crying though. She's like, it's still 88 million.
It's
I ain't crying.
million.
I ain't crying. $88 million. Now, chunks of money went to friends and family, of course. Family members that ain't ever showed up at the family reunion. All of a sudden, they on your doorstep talking about.
So what was that, like $1 million?
I'm your third cousin.
So now
twice
she has
removed.
87 million. I would have gave $1 million away.
She
Then she had to give it to the church. Gave $1 million to the church.
She don't even know how much she gave to friends and family.
Oh wow.
Okay. She don't even know how much. 10% tithe
That's right. That's right.
and charity.
Mhm.
Tithe and charity. And she did it. She did. This is wonderful. This is
Mhm.
wonderful. Okay. An unknown amount for her boyfriend's mistresses to pay them off. Whoa. Yes. Because as I say it, it sounds ridiculous.
Exactly.
Her boyfriend, I guess he was in prison or jail when she won the money, and then after he got out and proceeded to cheat on her, the mistresses, because she was famous at this point, and so to keep them quiet, she bought them off. So the mistresses got penis and money. Wow. Oh yeah,
That's a win-win.
penis and money. Do you ever got penis and money?
Yeah.
Okay, of course. Okay, let's keep going. $3 million spent bailing the boyfriend out of jail periodically because he would go to jail. So as a bail bondsman,
I would've made money.
You would have made some money off her.
$3 million.
$3 million.
What the hell was he possibly doing?
He's a drug dealer. He's some type
Still?
of criminal.
Oh God. Okay.
And then another $6 million bailing the boyfriend out of jail.
So $9 million.
We're up to 9. And then another $12 million bailing the boyfriend out of jail.
The boyfriend would have stayed in jail because he took most of her money between the mistresses.
$24 million spent on him.
Between
going
the
to jail.
mistress and the jail, he got half the money.
He's an expensive man to keep. So that is how you can blow through $188 million during your lifetime. Really, to be fair, 88 million, because like we said, 100 million went to taxes, federal, state, local taxes. All right,
So she didn't invest anything. Did she even buy a house, a car?
That's what I wanted us to talk about, is how to not blow through $188 million. She should, if you, any of our listeners out there who plan to win $188 million, here are suggestions from JP and Stacy D. My suggestion is invest in stocks, invest in real estate.
I would have
When
bought an
you-
apartment building or something.
When you have that much
Residual
money,
income.
that is enough money that if she would have invested it, she would have been able to live off the profits of the money and never spend the actual money. And every generation after her her children, her grandchildren, her great, 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 great grandchildren should have been able to live off of how the money was invested without ever touching the money. This money should have lasted forever. Here's the other mistake that I believe that she made. You know, they give you the option of taking the lump sum amount or taking it in payments. She took the lump sum.
Or the payments. A lot of people say they want the payments.
But I believe when you take the lump sum, you end up paying more in taxes.
Yeah.
And so that's
She
one
paid
reason
more in
not to do
taxes than
that.
what she had left.
Yes,
They took 100 and she only had 88 left.
right. She should not have taken. Listen, people. 55%, Mr. Walker just
So that
said.
right there tells you they taking more than what you have. So yeah, I would have done mine in
But another reason
Payments.
to take it in payments is I don't think you get bombarded with as many people asking for your money when you're able to say, that money comes in payments, like paychecks. So what you have, because in addition to her church, there was other churches. There was a bootleg pastor who tried to swindle her out of some money, and he actually went out and spent like a couple of $1 million on something, expecting her to pay for it, and then sued her for not paying for it.
what?
Oh, yes. And then the judge told him to get the hell on. But this is another reason. You don't want the world to know that you have a lump sum, $88 million in your bank account. Get the payments. And when you do the payments, it actually gives you more time to think about your investing. My other suggestion is get a financial advisor.
A good one. Do some research.
Yes, because unless you have a lot of business knowledge, figuring out how to properly invest that magnitude of money, like you need a financial advisor. You need a team of financial advisors so that, because a lot of times people have a financial advisor and he steals all the money. Okay, this is what happens to celebrities a lot.
Are they in Ponzi schemes?
Right. Just so you need a team of financial advisors for checks and balances so that they can be on top of each other to catch each other from embezzling your money. Those are the things that I think she could have done to prevent. Oh, and dump your man who's a criminal and cheating on you. Let's put that at the top of the list, ahead of everything else that I said. Get rid of your cheating criminal, because
He almost took half the money.
he took a lot of the money. So,
He would have just been in jail. Just stay in jail.
right. D, do you have any other suggestions for because I'm sure many of our listeners and viewers play the lottery. I myself play the lottery periodically.
I don't.
You don't? Let me tell you, I do.
I don't gamble.
in-laws-
I don't gamble like that with my money at all.
Yeah, my in-laws love the lottery, and so we always get lottery tickets like for Christmas. And when the jackpot gets really huge, yeah, I'll get a lottery ticket. Getting lottery tickets is a little confusing. Well, maybe for me, because I only buy one once or twice a year, but there's a million options. You wouldn't know. D, when you go to buy a lottery ticket, there's a million options. It's like this lottery, that lottery, this ticket, this type of I'm like, what in the world? Now, this woman, guess what numbers? She did not know where the numbers came from. Her mother gave her the lottery numbers, and her mother used, I believe it was a deceased relative's birthday or something, and never told her. She never told her that that's where the numbers came from. This didn't come out until they was sitting there with Ayanna Van Zandt doing the TV show
Fix my life.
Fix My Life, and the mother revealed, this is how you even got those numbers. And so in a way it turned into, she ended up getting backlash because people watching the show felt like that's your mama's money. You should have gave that money to your mama.
Or at
Well,
least some of it.
or at least some of it.
But she probably did, though.
Well, I'm sure she hooked up. If she hooked up everybody else, I'm sure
You
her
didn't
mama
want
got
your
hooked up.
Yeah, right.
But what the mother said, this is a true mother. What the mother said was, I wanted a better life for my child and her children. That's why I never told her where those numbers came from. If the mama would have known that she was going to give
James, let's give his
$21
name a
million to
James.
Junebug, no, we ain't even going to call him
Junebug.
We going to call him Junebug. If the if the mother would have known that millions and millions was going to be blown on a criminal boyfriend, she probably would have said, give me that money. Because really, she spent the 21 million she spent bailing him out of jail. That alone was enough to live on for the rest of her life. That alone was enough to invest and create generational wealth. Just if she would have stopped bailing Junebug out of jail. All right. Here's my
I
next.
sure would have bought me an apartment building. I've been wanting an apartment building forever.
I've always wanted an apartment building. Actually, what I really want is a commercial building. Because here's the difference between commercial property and regular apartment building is when you own a commercial building, let's say you rent it out to a bunch of therapists. They're only in your property 8 to 10 hours a day. They ain't got a bunch of kids up in there tearing everything up. You ain't got to replace carpet every time somebody moves out and paint all the walls.
Horrible floors now.
When you are renting to professionals, you are able to charge a lot more because an office that is the size of a bedroom is going to rent for $500 or $600 a month.
Easy.
Whereas you're not going to command that amount of money from an apartment. Now in Westport, in Westport where they have those multicolored houses that are converted to commercial and they're rented out to businesses, the rent on those houses is through the roof because they're considered commercial property. As a regular house, there was a small one. It was like a 2-bedroom. As a regular house, that thing probably would have rented for about $700-800 a month because it's considered commercial. And they were thinking, well, each bedroom is going to be an office. That's $500-600 a piece there. And then the living room is the waiting area. We got a full kitchen, all of these other things. It was renting for like $1,600 a month.
Wow.
That's the difference between if you rent your house to a family and if you rent it to professionals as commercial property. So my dream has always been to buy an office building. That's where the true money is, D.
And less mess.
And they pay. I can't even believe that just happened. They pay.
Did someone tell me to stop eating the potato chips on the air? don't care.
Probably.
I'm a little hungry, you guys. I have been at KU all morning long, and I rushed to get here on time.
You rushed to get here, D.
What
What
say?
is the comment?
Said, and her mother took care of her after she won. So,
Oh wow! After she won and lost all of.
kids after she won.
Oh, she wasn't very.
That
good.
was mama's money. It really was. That was mama's money. All right, next mental health and illness in the news. Have you heard of 988? 988 on your phone. If you dial 988 on your phone, as I did this morning, guess what I got a hold of?
Oh,
Don Diaz. From the center, but she works for this 988 number. Okay, 988 is a new national mental health crisis line, like 911. It's 988, It's not just, let me make this clear to our listeners. It is not just for people who are suicidal. It is for the whole gamut of mental health crises. If you are experiencing a psychological or an emotional crisis, you can dial 988 and there will be a MSW, a master's level clinical social worker or clinical counselor, marriage and family therapist, psychologist, someone clinically trained.
Is it star 9?
Waiting. It's just 988. Waiting to assist
It's not
you.
coming through on my phone.
You're not what? Yes, it is, D.
Call fail. 988.
It's D. What's going on? We can't have this not working while we on the air and suicidal people are listening to the show.
I was gonna try to call it and be like, "Hey, you're on the JP and Stacy D show," but it won't go through. 988.
D.
Try to do it on your phone.
It works. Hold on. Let me run through the information and then we're gonna call the crisis helpline. All right. So it's a national number, but this is how it works. And maybe that's the problem with your phone. When you call it, it gives you the local 988 staff, but they determine it based upon your area code. And so I have an 816 area code number. If I travel to Tennessee and have an emotional crisis and call 988, it's going to connect me to somebody here. But there's a solution to that. All you have to do is tell them, I'm not at home. I'm in another state. And I'm in a real bad emotional state. And so then they will connect you to someone local wherever you are at.
Well, that's real good.
Yes. And so this started last July.
Also, a listener said you can text 988.
Oh, you can also text it. Okay.
Good.
So this is good to know. Because suicide is now the 11th leading cause of death nationwide. Following a 2-year decline, it's back on the rise.
Well, I'm just really happy that people are really, the society and the government is really understanding about mental health now.
Yes. And listen to this.
That's a plus.
Yes. I mean, because it's there was a need. There was a drastic need for this. Now, what they can also do, you can talk to the counselor, because I got Dawn. And so they answered, and Dawn answered. She sounded so therapeutic. You remember Dawn, don't you? She sounded therapeutic. Hello.
She's not going to work for the
This
schools
is-
anymore?
She does that too, but it's summer. And so I said, hello. I said, I'm actually a therapist. My name is Gerald Payne. She said, I know who you are. I said, who this here? Who this here? She said, and so it was Dodd. I said, Dodd, what are you doing? I'm trying to gather some information for the radio show today. She's like, well, you got me. And so they can also refer you to someone. They can dispatch. If you are unable.
Oh, wow. So it must be part of the 911.
It is. Because, so when you call, they trace where you're calling from.
Mm-hmm.
But you can talk to the person and them help you to pull it together. If that doesn't work, they can dispatch someone to come to you to assist you in pulling everything back together, okay? Because you're distraught at this point. You're in crisis. And I asked her, I said, does that mean an ambulance showing up with sirens blaring and a police car? Because a person in crisis is not going to want all of that. And she said no. Because the mental health centers, all of the local community mental health centers now offer this service. So it'll be a regular person pulling up in a regular car. Now, if it is a person who is in crisis, let's say they're suicidal and they hang up on the crisis counselor, that's considered an emergency at that point. And so then, yes, it might be the police, ambulance, or something showing up. So what she was saying is, yes, all of the mental health centers are offering on-site services, walk-in hours now.
Well, that's real good.
That is good because If you are having a crisis, back in the day, you had to call the mental health
Make
center
an
and
appointment.
schedule. But now you just call them. You don't even have to call. Just show up. Now, the different mental health centers have different walk-in hours, so you do kind of need to know when their walk-in hours are. But this is something that is a possibility for everyone. Also, what I learned from calling the line is that Rediscover now has urgent care crisis treatment that is open every day from 9 to 7. So for those of you who are here in the Kansas City area, and I know the show is all over the country, but if you are, this should apply to wherever you are. Here, though, in Kansas City, if you are in Jackson, Clay, or Ray, or Platte County, you can go into Rediscover Urgent Care and get treatment and medication. So if you have a family member, this is so important. If you have a family member who is in crisis, and let's say they've ran out of meds and they have become actively psychotic, it can take 2 months to get in to see a psychiatrist, and that's on a good day. So now with Rediscover offering these urgent care services, you can walk in and get meds that day.
That's really, really good.
This is easy access to meds has never been
Never.
present.
It usually be at least 30 to 45 days out.
These because we have a shortage of psychiatrists in this country, and so all the psychiatrists are booked up for at least 2 months. It's hard to get into psychiatry. But what I was thinking is, since all the community mental health centers have walk-in hours and they also provide psychiatry services, for those of you who don't live in those 4 counties, go to whatever the local community mental health center is in your county, and you should still be able to immediately get meds and treatment. All right. So, something else that I learned is that when you call, one of the things she was saying is that some people's numbers cannot be traced for some reason. I think it's some of the bootleg cell phone companies, and so that can be a problem for people who are in crisis. And so for parents, if you have a kid who experiences emotional instability and they have a cell phone and you have given them the crisis number, you just need to be sure that their phone, as a parent, you should be sure that their phone number can be traced in case assistance needs to be dispatched to them. All right, so D, if I call them, Mr. Walker, is there a way to call them where we can hear it on the air?
Yeah, but I think we ought to set it up with them in advance.
Okay.
So it's a
D,
no
what
right
do you
now.
what do you want to do, D?
I want you to try to call it on your phone.
Okay, and you're going to talk to them. Because I already talked to them today, so I don't need to talk to them again.
Because, I mean, we want to report it, but might see if they have a representative that would talk to us about it.
You have it
Okay,
on
D.
speaker?
It's on speaker.
Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are here to help. Para español, oprime número 2. To reach the Veterans Crisis Line, if you are a
Ooh, have
U.S. veteran or
veterans.
service member or are calling about one, press 1. To connect to specialized support for LGBTQ plus people under
Wow.
25, press 3. Otherwise, please remain on the line while we route your call to a Lifeline crisis counselor. Your call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance purposes.
Let's see how long it takes. Because I'm thinking if I'm in crisis, I need to get through
Stay on
quick.
the line while your call is directed to an available responder. 988 Lifeline, this is Dawn. How may I help you?
That's Don.
Is this Don Diaz? Hey, Don, this is Stacy Head. You're on the air with JP and Stacy D. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Girl, it's going well. It's going well. JP, we are
to the
actually
business,
live right now on the line.
Yeah.
We are live on KUAW radio, and we just wanted to really call the 988 to see did it really work, because it wouldn't go through on my phone, so we're calling from JP's phone. And we just want to let you guys know that this is most definitely a service that is needed in our community, and we just want to give you guys kudos for this.
Well, Stacy, it's very nice speaking to you, but because you called our line, I do need to ask, are you currently experiencing any kind of mental health crisis, suicidal, or homicidal thoughts?
Not right now.
She's not homicidal right now. Catch us on another day, though.
And please, thank you for calling, and please tell your listeners to not hesitate in calling this number anytime.
All right, y'all. This is Don Diaz, and it's 988. Thank you, Don, so much. It was nice hearing from you. You know, it's been almost 20 years.
Oh, I know.
All right, have a good
and
one.
They, and they were prompt. That was pretty prompt.
Yes, and it was really prompt. I think we were on hold for maybe 10 seconds, if
Yes.
that. So I want our listeners to know that if you're really in a crisis, they will be there to help you. Thank you, Don, for all the services that you do. We do appreciate you. Bye.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye now. Hi, you guys. We did
That
that.
went well.
We did that on the JP and Stacy D show. So that is most definitely one of the best resources. JP be out here in these streets getting it.
I be in these streets.
And I am really in the streets, and I did not know anything about that.
Yeah, it just started like a year last July, I think.
Wow.
It's been, there was always a suicide crisis line, but it was a regular phone number, and nobody can remember that. And so they just decided, let's make this simple, and let's expand it, and let's do more. It needs to be easily accessible to everybody. So that was good. Thank
That was
the
real
Lord.
good.
Let me tell you, I was sitting over here praying, please let them answer this call
I know,
quickly.
and
we
it
need for this
did.
to go
It did.
very well.
It was only like about 10 or 15 seconds, so that was really good. So if you really
Oh,
are in
my
crisis, that is the number to call. We're going to do that again. It's 988. And don't dial it from a Spectrum phone. Who's your carrier?
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile must be the one, because mine's a Spectrum and it will not go through.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Mr. Walker, what kind of phone service do you have? T-Mobile. You have Spectrum.
Yeah, because they're the cheapest thing out.
Mr. Walker, on your phone.
Oh, my phone's AT&T.
So Spectrum cell phone, we need to resolve this problem, because we have listeners who have Spectrum.
Oh,
and
hold on now. It's want to do it now.
So this was user error.
No, maybe my phone was, Spectrum is not the best right now, but it's super cheap for businesses.
Okay, so to our
Well, I don't know,
listeners and
'cause it's just
viewers,
dialing.
the D was just able to make the call.
But it's
So
not going through.
It's not going through.
It's doing better than it was a couple of minutes
What
ago.
is it doing?
It's calling. Last time it wouldn't even go through, remember?
Oh my Lord.
So
Okay.
it's Spectrum.
We need to come up with some type of, okay, to our listeners and viewers who have Spectrum, we're going to have to look into this a little further to figure out a way for you to have access to this mental health crisis line.
Have to. 'Cause
Well,
it's
while y'all
specifically
are
something
doing
needed.
this, y'all to make a call in to Spectrum and ask them why you can't, make this
Why
call.
can I not access? What's the number to Spectrum, D?
Hell, I don't know.
D, call them.
I don't do that. That's what my
Okay.
CFO handles that. I make the money and she manages the money.
D. Okay. So we're going to have to look into this and
Because this is something that needs to
contact
happen,
them
yes.
to ask them why you're not able to access that number. I'll do the research into that. D, let me tell you something.
What?
You need to be able to run every aspect of your business, D.
I can't.
You
run
can't be
it.
dependent on nobody.
If I need to look
You
at the
playing
books,
with your money right
if I
now.
need to look at the books, I have access to them and I can read them because I have a minor in business administration with a minor in accounting.
You made me
so
start
I do.
sweating.
So I
You
do
made me
have the.
Do you make me start sweating 'cause
capability
you
and
couldn't
the
handle that
ability.
business just now.
I mean, I have the capability and the ability to see what's going on. I mean, I could bring up the bank statement anytime and see where my money's going, but I can't handle it
You
all.
just able to track the money.
I could track the money, but I can go back and look at the books. I got the number to the accountant too, but
Okay.
I bring the money in.
Okay, let's get to the question of the day. I did have another mental health and illness story in the news, but I'm going to cover that next week because it can wait. Okay, our
Yeah.
question of the day. D, I want you to try to guess what this
I
diagnosis
can't.
is. D,
What?
you don't know what
I
you
just
can
told
do
you
until you
sex-
try.
sex
No,
addiction.
it's not sex addiction. Okay, let me read the question of the day. My new guy disclosed to me that he's in therapy. How do I find out what his diagnosis is and which diagnoses should I run from? Here's what I would do. Just ask him.
But there's a don't kick
Fool,
down.
what you
Hold on a
diagnosed
minute. Hold on.
Hold on.
Don't listen to JP, you guys. Now, I'm very seldom do not say this, but JP loves kicking down the front door. This is one of those times when you need to go through a window.
Okay, here's a more subtle approach.
Thank you.
Here's what else you can do, because the D's always accusing me of kicking down doors. What you can do is say, hey, honey, you know, I was listening to JP and Stacy D on TuneIn or Twitch or Twitter or whatever you listen on. I was listening to JP and Stacy D today, and they said that any good therapist discusses with their client or patient what their diagnosis is and explains it to them. And so, which is true, I am saying that. So you won't be lying, okay? Because a therapist does need to help people understand their diagnoses. So now I officially said it, so now you can tell your man and then say, honey, did your therapist give you a diagnosis and did he explain it? Now, if he says, well, actually, yes. He said that I had borderline personality disorder.
What?
Grab your crap and run
Run.
for the door.
And I don't care if you're in your own house.
Run out your own house. Let me tell you, if your man says he has borderline personality, leave your own crib and send the police back to ask him to leave. Okay, all kidding aside, that is a way to get that information. Now, here's the thing.
But I think it was very good if he was to tell you that he has seen someone. I think that is really good.
And he most likely is going to be willing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. So, what type of diagnosis did they give you? I just be like,
No.
you know what, honey, I'm very proud of you for sharing this information.
Yes.
You know, because mind you, he's in therapy, so you have to acknowledge
Yes.
what
Now,
he did.
What would be concerning is if he isn't willing to tell you, because
Yes,
that's a person who is possibly borderline personality disorder. If he will not tell you, I can understand you being concerned that he's being secretive about his diagnosis. If he gets defensive, why you ask me that? Why you want to know that? I don't talk about that. Or, then it's like, but I don't think in a relationship, I don't think a person would really be hesitant to share that information unless it's a heavy duty diagnosis. Now, so that's how you could get the information. Just say, I was watching JP and Stacy D, and they said that the therapist should share this information with the client. Did your therapist share this with you? And see what he says. Okay. Here's my next thought. We are going to discuss the diagnoses that you need to run from, and one of them that we just said. In fact, I'm going to say this. Avoid 3 of the 4 cluster B personality disorders. Okay? Cluster B personality disorders are antisocial personality disorder. We've already covered that on the show. So if you want to know, that's a sociopath, by the way. So if you want information on that, visit our Facebook page. All of these shows are on there. The next one is borderline personality disorder, which we also did a show on, but if you want more information on that, you can access it on our Facebook page. The other one is narcissistic personality disorder. If he's a narcissist, run. Now, here's the reason why I said 3 out of the 4 cluster Bs, because, and Stacy D and I talked about this before, the 4th cluster B personality disorder, because the personality disorders are grouped together because of their similarities. The ones that are in cluster B are the more aggressive personality disorders. Like, they're aggressive, and
they will kill you, or pay someone to kill you, or make someone think that they need to kill you.
Yeah, they're aggressive, right? And so, because some of the other personality clusters are the opposite, it's more passive, like dependent personality disorder and different things, like avoidant personality disorder. The 4th one that, as I've said before, I don't think it should be included in cluster B, is histrionic personality disorder. We have not covered that on this show. I kind of look at that as the entertainer's diagnosis. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to cover histrionic personality disorder, because I was thinking about it. Well, if JP and Stacy D are doing a radio show, that might be considered entertainment, which means we might need to assess ourselves to see if we have histrionic personality traits. That's going to be fun and interesting. I already know the answer because I already did the assessment on myself and the D. But we're going to do it.
How the hell you do it on me? I wasn't even around.
D, I've been knowing you since the 80s. I was able to do it. I didn't need you to do the assessment. I've been knowing you since the 80s, D. I was able to do that assessment. You didn't need to be present. And so it's going to be that's going to be an interesting show, and we're going to do that. We probably should just go to do it next week. To me, histrionic personality disorder is a little bit of a fun diagnosis. But when we go through it, you are going to immediately picture actors and actresses and musicians. All right. So that's the diagnosis to run from. If your boyfriend tells you what his diagnosis is, and it is one of those cluster Bs.
Can you say those 3 again for me, JP?
Antisocial personality disorder, which is a sociopath. Narcissistic personality disorder, which is a former president and any other narcissist. And borderline personality disorder. And we have covered all 3 because they leave people feeling victimized. They not only leave people feeling victimized, they victimize people like a sociopath. Like, they're dangerous. And that's why we covered them. And that's why we didn't cover histrionic, because I really don't think it should be in that cluster. But it is a fun diagnosis, so we are going to cover it. Okay, now let's get down to the nitty to the gritty. D,
10 minutes.
Aside from a sex addict, which I am not encouraging people to run out and look for, what is the diagnosis that people should actually want in their man? This is for the women.
I don't know. Tell me.
I'm going to go through the traits and see if you can figure
We only
it out.
have 10 minutes, JP.
This is quick.
Okay, come on.
Okay. These men are very mild-mannered, calm and even-tempered, almost void of any anger, sensitive,
Oh, yeah.
compassionate. I see tons of them in therapy. So that's the reason why I was able to quickly roll down this list. Empathetic, very
Yes.
empathetic, and very sympathetic, kind-hearted, endearing, and here's the main clue.
A provider.
Well, this isn't the main clue. This is second to the main clue. In touch with their feelings
Oh,
and able to
wow.
express them openly.
Oh, wow.
And now the main clue. Oh, I hope my wife is listening. Mr. Walker, I'm going to drop
You
the
know
main
she
clue.
better be listening.
If my wife is listening, because she's our very important viewer, her and Leslie, I want her to enter what it is after I drop the main clue. They are always aware of how their actions might negatively affect another person and are keenly focused on not negatively impacting the lives of others.
Wow. I need to husband that up.
And they are so much this that I was able to quickly type this up off the top of my head today. Guess what the diagnosis is?
What?
Let's see. Mr.
Did she
Walker,
type it in?
because I don't want to give her no clue. All right.
I was kicking it with Nadine on Saturday.
But for the sake of time, well, it didn't work out too well for her.
No, I didn't.
And I wasn't even able to attend. Here it is.
What?
Women, this is the man you want to marry. Social anxiety disorder. Let me explain why. Because social anxiety disorder,
That is
these
true.
are men who have a lot of anxiety about socially interacting. But that diagnosis has all these positive side effects. Because when you have anxiety about how you interact with others, these men go out of their way to make sure that they do not harm other people. They are extremely sensitive, extremely empathetic. The diagnosis makes them work so hard on their personality because they live with a fear of rejection. And so as a result, they work on themselves to reduce the likelihood of rejection, and they end up absolutely lovable, wonderful, incredible people. I know nobody would be able to
Okay,
guess that.
I see something on there says you're going to stay home codependent.
Codependent.
Y'all see me looking like,
Oh, no. Okay, here's the thing. Let me get to that. Okay, let me explain what that viewer is saying. If you marry somebody who has social anxiety disorder, they're never going to leave the house. Not true. Because this diagnosis is extremely amenable to treatment. It is easy to treat, and they do overcome it. But what happens is when they overcome the social anxiety, all of those positive side effects remain in place. They still, because it's a part of them to be in tune with how they interact with other people. And so even after you help them, because I see them all the time, they're easy to treat and they do get over the social anxiety. But when they socially interact, they're able to go to dinner parties, they're able to do this, they're able to do that. It's so much a core part of their personality to be careful about how they treat people that the diagnosis goes away and the positive traits stay. These men, their personalities are so pleasant as a result of this diagnosis that it literally elevates them above the vast majority of men, except those men who already naturally possess these traits without it stemming from a diagnosis. Because let me say this, because I don't want the men out there to get upset. So I gotta have social anxiety disorders in order for me to be pleasant. I can't be good to my woman unless I gotta just. That's not what I'm saying. There are many men who are sympathetic and empathetic and kind-hearted and endearing, and it is not the side effect of social anxiety disorder. But what I'm saying is, with the exception of those men, social anxiety disordered men are absolutely, and these are my most lovable clients. And it wasn't until I started seeing a lot of them that I started addressing with them, that when it comes to the personality disorders, because this, like, let's take narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissists have no social anxiety. They love being in the mix. They willing
Love.
to go and treating people horribly while they are in the mix. And so what I explain to my men who have social anxiety disorder, which is not a personality disorder, it's an anxiety disorder. What I explain to them is that their fears are irrational and not grounded in reality, because their personalities are so wonderful and incredible that if they would just put themselves out there, they would be able to realize that they're not going to be rejected. It's in their head that they are going to be rejected. The social anxiety is not grounded in reality. There's no evidence to support that they will be rejected. And what I say to them that always makes them bust out laughing is that what I have learned over the past 25 years is that it's the people with horrible personalities that freely engage with other people. The people who are so afraid to interact with other humans are the ones who other humans would love to interact with the most. And so once I help them to see that and help them to get in touch with all of their wonderful traits, then we're able to chip away at the anxiety and get them out into the world. And they always end up blown away with how well received they are, because they're wonderful. Women, this is who you need to marry. Now, let's talk about women with social anxiety disorder. With women oftentimes will possess these positive traits without it stemming from or being the side effect of social anxiety disorder. And I don't see a lot of women in therapy with social anxiety disorder. And so I mainly see men with this, teenagers on up. And it as far as, demographics, is not primarily white males, is not primarily black males. Like, I see the full spectrum of men. They're usually younger though. Like, most of them are not out of their 40s. That's the oldest that they tend to be. But I'm talking young black males, young white males, and social anxiety is on the rise because we live in a technological era and humans are not as closely connected as they used to be. People are doing more texting and people don't interact as much as they used to. So many people are working from home. We're just not out and about like we used to be. And kids are developing this diagnosis because back in the day, kids were forced to go outside and play with other kids. And nowadays, kids are in the house on their video games, on their electronics, and they're not developing social skills, and they're developing social anxiety. And the social anxiety makes them really work on being as good a person as they can possibly be because of the fear of rejection. It's really fascinating when you think about it. So D, you are single and dating. I need you to look for men who have social anxiety disorder.
They're not gonna come up to me.
Now that the D just pointed out a glitch.
They're not gonna come to me.
One of the things that we have to work on in therapy is they are not likely to be approaching women.
True.
They are not rolling up on a ton of women because of the social anxiety. But the ones in therapy are working on it.
And one of your comments was a woman has to be patient and encouraging to validate.
Yes. But I am telling you, remember we did the show on men who are victims of domestic violence?
They're the ones.
And I see a lot of them. A lot of my male victims of domestic violence also have social anxiety disorder because they're so gentle and endearing that predators gravitate towards them. Women who are aggressive, the like borderline, women who seek to control, they can smell one of these men in a room. And so you're right, the men don't really approach women much, and the women who approach them are women who prey upon them. So in addition to having to work with them on the social anxiety, I also have to work with them on steering away from women who are basically going to
The
prey
bad
upon them.
one.
Right. But D, we got to find you these are
I
the
know.
most, I'm telling you, these are my most favorite clients. Love these clients. They are so wonderful. And the kids, they make you want to take them home and adopt them. You will adopt these kids if you
Oh
come
no, I'm
across
not adopting. I already adopted two. I'm not.
you thought you're done with that.
I'm done with that one.
That's our show for today. Thank you all for joining us. We are going to figure out how people with spectrum can access the 988 mental health crisis line. We're going to update on that next week. But thank you all for joining us. And remember, worry about nothing.
And pray about everything.
Thank you and God bless.
Bye bye now.